Peace, family. Welcome to another episode, Underground Railroad Productions. This is your host, Brother Rich. Some of y'all may know this brother's voice, but haven't seen his face on my platform. Brother, introduce yourself once again.
What's going on? Appreciate it, Rich. This is Minister Jew, here in Brooklyn, chilling with the fam. Rich got me out here in the park. It's hot as hell, but well, we go get it in though.
It's unusually hot for September. This time in September in New York. This is unusually hot for us right here, man. So, people just enjoying the last days of this weather out here, Jew. But I'm glad to have you out here, brother.
That's right.
So you can see how we do it out here. You know, how we live on a regular basis out here.
All right.
But, son, I want to talk to you about that I think will be very beneficial to the family. Something you brought up before, because what made me think about it, I was looking at an article and I said, damn, I heard Minister Jew and Noble Ampu talk about that before. The name of the article says social media triggers a dopamine high. Interesting article, Minister Jew. And it said that the same areas of the brain that are activated for food, water, are activated for social stimuli. This can be a smile, someone telling you you're doing a great job, you're trustworthy, a nice person, or merely cooperating with somebody. All of these social reinforcers are abstract but show similar activity in the reward centers of the brain. This suggests that if you're getting positive feedback in social media, likes, shares, retweets, it's a positive reinforcer of using social media and one that allows you to get the positive effects return, seeking more social reinforcement. Now, we often ask you, we don't know the science sometimes behind why people do what they do, but we say, damn, why are people so addicted to drama? I hear people continuously saying, oh, we don't want the drama, we don't want no more fighting. But then when I go to the views and I look at those videos, they get the most views.
Right.
And those people know everything that happened in that drama-filled video.
That's right.
So it's like, wait a minute. Somebody's not telling the truth here, Minister Jew.
Right.
But maybe it's something deeper that we don't even know what's going on.
Right.
Maybe it's just like when a person's addicted to cocaine, they may not know what's going on inside of them. So, Minister Jew, school us about what's going on and why are we so attracted to drama in life?
Well,
and social media.
Well, to answer the first part of your question, from childhood, as soon as we come out of your mother's womb, we crave a sense of sociability, shall we say. We crave to be touched. We crave to be coddled. We crave to be one with someone else or multiple people. So it's a natural instinct for humanity to gravitate to something that's social. We're social beings. We just gravitate to that type of instinct, shall we say? But then there's another part of our being based upon a lot of the experiences that we see on a day-to-day basis, specifically people who come from poorer environments, what we like to call the struggle and whatnot. We build up something in our brain called negativity bias. And, everything that we see, we like to associate negative principles to it. It's easier to go down the pathway of negativity than it is to success, obviously, because success takes a little bit more work. It takes dedication. It takes some sound principles, some grounding. But the negative thing, it's easy. We just flock right to it. It intrigues us. You mentioned dopamine. When you have a lot of trauma, or what they call the post-traumatic stress disorder, right? When you have a lot of that going on your day-to-day, when you're constantly seeing images on the television reinforce the trauma, right? You're seeing all of these videos, where things are happening in the world to people of color. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a people of color, just to anybody who's having an unfortunate situation occur in their life. We're drawn to that, right? We constantly see that. And so these things become like addictions. You know, they talk about dopamine being one of the chemicals that involve. What's up, Blue? How you feeling, man?
Brother.
Ah, good to see you, man. You know, so you know, we gravitate towards it because it's the easier pathway to take when we've been addicted to so much negativity. It's easier to go down that neural pathway. Even though you say you want to experience positive things, you tend to go down the path that you've integrated the most into your psychology, which is the negativity, excuse me, unfortunately.
Indeed, man. I remember reading the book, The 50th Law of Power. I might have mentioned this to you before, and 50 Cent talked about how a lot of people can't succeed because success is boring. A lot of, when you go to if you look at like Entrepreneur magazine or these magazines with these millionaires and billionaires, they always talk about the importance of embracing what's boring. So can you talk to me about that, the importance of embracing some boring shit to get something done?
Well, I mentioned it earlier when we were prefacing this conversation. It's the Saturn principle. It's, you know, it's dedication, it's hard work, it's constant repetition, right? The more you do, it's like this, right? You work a job, and the first time you go to your job, the first week or so, you kind of clumsy. You don't really know, how to work the computers or to do the assignment that the boss is giving you to do. But over time, the more you constantly repeat that function, the more you constantly see yourself doing that act, the more comfortable you become doing the act. And so that takes time, that takes discipline, that takes repetition. And that's boring. Yes. To most people, because yes. We sold mercury, quicksilver. Everything is what's next. You know what I mean? How can I move on to the next chapter in my life? I haven't even closed the previous one that I've embarked on. So,
that's it.
That's why. That's why, and so generally the people who are the most successful, they stay in one lane for a long duration of time. Until that constant message has saturated the minds of the people who've been listening, right? To fortify the idea in their mind. That's why I say new ideas require many reiterations. Because if it's new and you just hear it one or two times, you'll disregard it. You know what I mean? So you have to constantly reinforce that into people's psychology.
Where does the theory of extremely successful people having 6 or 7 streams of income come from? If, one person has to be meticulous about one particular topic at a time?
That's a good question. Well, usually if you follow these people, these successful people, and you watch their careers, they usually stayed in one place for a long duration of time before they moved on to the next project. So like Jay-Z, right? We in Brooklyn.
Right.
Hov, he came out rapping. He said in one of his records, what did he say? Something about Rockaway. He never would have thought of that. You know what I mean? Like, right. Over many years of perfecting the craft of rap, yeah. Of hip hop, then he ventured off into the clothing industry, right? And let that bloom over, a duration of time. And then from there, he goes into his full bag of mogul tricks, and now we see where he is today. But usually, it takes a real solid piece of time to get in one lane, master it, and then move to the next. So if a person got 7 different streams of income, then you can probably bet that they've been doing whatever they've been doing for at least 40 years, at least, to maximize the potential of those 7 different streams, if they really proficient and good at what it is that they say that they do.
And they got some young millionaires out here, man.
Yeah, man, they do.
They 20s, they've been hitting it for 40 years. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that, like with all things, if they say that time is accelerated, people are going through this phenomenon mm-hmm. where they're saying time is accelerated, even where we're sitting, this is a track. You know, I've seen people jog in this track. So think about if this track is sped up 40 times. You know, we're seeing the people, instead of gradually jogging, they're zipping past now.
Right.
You know, is it the same thing, being that time has sped up, right? They're talking about Saturnian energy. If time has sped up, you know, is it possible that success is also that much more quickly accessible?
Well, I always say it comes down to the perception of the individual. If we perceive something not to be difficult, then it won't be. If you're constantly thinking that something's impossible, you know, it's a term. It's called quantum tunneling. The old way says that in order for you to get, you know, from A to B, you need 30 years to do it, right? That's just the traditional way, right? But if we gonna talk quantum, then that's a whole nother conversation. If you're perceiving this reality to be sped up, or that you don't have to go the route that the generations that went before you, and if that's solidified in your mental, then no, it won't take 30 or 40. You can get it done in 4 or 5. You know what I mean?
Right.
If that's the mentality that you have on your journey to whatever it is that you know is lucrative for you. You know.
Indeed.
What in terms of there was a question I had in mind. Blue asked a good question, it threw me off. Well, let me just ask you this. In terms of brothers out there that are engaging in activities such as, since Blue was talking about speeding up the process, do you think engaging in drugs is a gateway that people use to speed up the process? Let's say marijuana or shrooms or DMT, is these one of the cheat codes that speed up the process?
You mean as far as clarify that? You mean as far as the mental process to do the act?
Yeah, the mental process, right.
The breakthrough.
Right.
Well, initially they probably would think that it is. People will have experiences with these drugs. You know, it will alter and put them in a different state of awareness, a different state of consciousness. But then it's like anything else. I view anything external to self as it's an outside source, right? And so you can use it and have the experience, but eventually you're gonna have to come back to it again, right? And again, and again, right? To that in order to get, and then it's like anything else. You start to level off and top off. You know, a drug addict, you know, they on heroin or cocaine. You know, the first couple times they hit that thing, it's like, oh my God, right? And then over, 15, 20 years, it kind of levels off. They never, and that's probably why they keep doing it, to try to get back to that state, that organic state where what they felt in their initial, moment, right, when they had to hit.
Right.
That's right. So, the reality is, you're gonna have to understand how the levels of consciousness work in order to have these experiences. You can induce these experiences through elevated emotion, images in motion. These are some of the things that you can do internally, subjectively, to have the experience that you're looking for, using some of these external things that get you there momentarily, but then you top out. You flatline out on those particular substances. So it's best to go inwardly, to constantly open that gateway of the mind internally, using your own willpower, basically.
When we talk about the chemical dopamine, and we talk about, I hope there's not an echo on here, and we talk about people being addicted to drama and they need that chemical high. Is this the same reason, Minister Jew, why a female might want the bad guy because the good guy's boring, or a guy might want a girl that's she's lit, she may be a stripper because they looking for somebody to give them, regardless of how good the person is, that person may not give them that dopamine high that they're looking for?
Well, man, that's a different question. Dopamine is, they say it deals with pleasure and reward, right?
Yes.
So, growing up in the society that we grow up in, being African American people, I'm speaking specifically to that demographic.
Right.
When you come from the hood, man, I'm from the west side of Chicago. So when I was a youth, we saw Cadillac, big rims, billet spokes on the cars, and most of these dudes was drug dealers. You know what I mean?
White wall.
That's right, white walls, the whole nine, and with the slamming sounds, the woofers, the 12s, just beating down the block. And so when we saw that, man,
spaceships.
That's right. We
They was aliens.
That right there. So now us as men or young men growing up, if we saw that, right? Imagine what the young ladies were thinking who see that, right? Because we're dealing with dopamine, we're dealing with pleasure and reward. So when they see that type of individual who's flossing, right? They got the diamonds, the gold, a rack in their pocket, big whips, right? That is indicative of a certain type of lifestyle, right? It's a pleasurable lifestyle, right? It's a rewarding lifestyle in the moment, right? Until the shit hit the fan, right? But so yeah, that adds to it. It's that, and then as far as the masculine aspect, we looking for the dime, the top of the line, the bad chick, it's pleasures and rewards in that too, because all the homies on the block, right? They like, you got shorty, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a sense of it's obviously it's pleasure in that, but it's a sense of I got the prize,
Accomplishment.
right? I got the reward. You see what I'm saying? So absolutely, it plays a part of our psychology when we approaching it from that angle.
One thing I noticed, reading these magazines, Entrepreneur or Inc. or Fortune, a lot of these individuals tell you to avoid multitasking.
Mm-hmm.
They saying that's a trick, don't fall for it.
Right.
The most successful people are focused. They don't multitask.
That's right.
We're talking about the internet and what social media has done to us. We'll have 4 windows open up at once. We'll be downloading this, studying this, watching a YouTube video of this. We'll be doing all types of shit at the same time.
Yeah.
Talk to me, what's your take on multitasking versus doing one thing at a time?
In the social media age.
Well, it's difficult in the social media age. Very, very difficult. It takes a lot of discipline not to. But it's funny that we talking about this. I was having a conversation with some of the members up in the Poconos night before last. Well, not exactly the same, but it was going down the same avenue. And the brain operates like this. If you got one goal, right, or one focus, the brain will give 100% of its attention to that. If you split it up and you're doing 2 things, it drops down to 50-50. If you're trying to multitask 3 things, it goes 33, and so forth. 25, 20, 20, all the way down to whatever decimal we get to. As many things that you're multitasking with. And what happens is, what they found out in these studies is that people tend not to be successful when they do that. Because they're sporadic. It's all over the place. Again, you got one window open. You haven't even finished reading what's in that window, and you're over here in a new window trying to assimilate information over here. And now, your brain becomes scattered. It's all over the place, and you can't really focus on your initial goal. So I tell my members, like, look, for 28, 30 days, we're going to use these lunar and solar cycles to manifest, right? So for 28, 30 days, I need you to focus solely on that, right? No other thing but that. And the results are phenomenal when people do that. And then they can have closure and confidence in the process of goal setting, right? Because they've actually seen it without a shadow of a doubt materialize in their world, right? Versus haphazardly moving from, here to there and getting these small glimpses of materialization instead of really focusing in one area. So I tell anybody, focus on one thing at a time, and then watch it come to fruition with confidence so that you can move on to the next thing. And the reason that people are generally like that is because they think that they don't have enough time. It always goes back to the Saturn principle. We think we don't have enough time, right? And then you get like a kid in a candy store. You want that, right? Because you're thinking that, I've already wasted so much time, right? How can I catch up? So, then we start to overwork the hippocampus and open up. It's just like, the DVRs, how you can watch 8 different things and rewind here and rewind there. Well, the hippocampus has the ability to do that, but you haven't even mastered one facet of the operation. Right. You know what I mean? And so, it's better to take it one thing at a time, watch it mature and grow, and you be all right,
Indeed. How much is the internet a copycat version of our spiritual technology? And what I mean by that is in terms of, when you get into string theory and everything is connected, and you look at the internet and you study social media, it's kind of like, it's real similar principles.
That's right.
So when we study, it's like when we're studying how the internet works, we're really studying how ourselves work.
Correct.
So talk to me a little bit about that.
You remember, if for those, Marvel fans, right? KT always go in on this subject matter. It's like Professor X when he step off into, his
holodeck.
Yeah, when he get in his zone and he start contacting mutants all over the world, right? Right. That's internet, basically, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
And so, and then when you look at even the helmet that he wears, right? And it's not pseudoscience for y'all out there, right? This is I got some case studies on this phenomenon. His helmet actually looks like the limbic brain itself. If you actually look at the limbic brain and the structures in it, what you'll find out is that through the limbic brain, what tends to happen when you become a master of it, these are the type of things that you're able to do. You're able to contact people over long distances of space, right? Specifically with people that are intimates with you, like your brother, your sister, your mother, really, really good friends. You know what I mean? You're able to reach out over the worldwide web of thought and be able to make an impact in that person's consciousness, whether they're aware of it or not, because a lot of times it'd be dwelling beneath the surface of the conscious mind. So in order to unveil that, you have to start to work with the subconscious principles consciously so that people can become conscious when you're making that type of contact with them. You see, basically it's an entanglement. The internet is an entanglement. It's a bunch of stuff together in the same place. At a click, you can have access to it. So, everything external from ourselves is just a replica of our own human technology. Heating and cooling,
right?
Thyroid, right? Everything. So, last night I was having a conversation, about manifestation, and we were talking about light and darkness, and how a lot of times you have to look to nature in order to really understand the phenomenon. If you don't know it, or master hasn't taught you the internal processes first, right? So the pattern world, right, or the internet, which is a pattern of human consciousness, once you start to recognize it in nature how things work, then you start to assimilate that data inwardly and start to use it the way that you see it, to have the same phenomenon appear in your life using the same methodology. You see, so the internet is a marvelous tool, but it's secondary to consciousness. It's everything is secondary to consciousness.
Well, do you think, since with the internet around and being so prevalent in our lives, Do you think it's possible for us to get back to our organic technology since we're so dependent on this technology? Like, is that, you know, kind of preventing us from tapping into our organic shit?
Well, it was a commercial. I think it was might have been Samsung, I think, with the ostrich, where he was with a group of ostriches, and then he broke off, and it was these
Oculus.
yeah. You put on, you put on, and he's able
Virtual
to see
reality,
the virtual reality around him, right? And so, ostriches cannot fly, but he had the desire, and that's the key word, the desire to want to fly. So every day, in the commercial, he would run and try to take off, and he made a couple clutches of himself, right? And eventually, and they actually really played on the sun and the moon in that commercial too, because they showed him practicing at night and whatever. But I'm saying all that to say, what technology will do via the binoculars, the virtual glasses that he had on, what's eventually going to happen is humanity is going to become so integrated with technology, right, that he's going to have an aha moment, because everything is trying to lead to what? Wireless this, wireless that. We don't want no cords. We want this thing to be basically attached to our bodies.
Seamless.
That's right.
Wireless.
Seamless, without any identification of an outlet to another source of power.
Right. Automation.
Right? You see? So eventually humanity will get to the point where they realize, damn, it's me. Right? It's not the energy coming from the wall. It's not that. It's me. It's my mind that's affording this holograph to become presented in the visual, So how long will it take for that to get there? I don't know. But when we do get there, man, the breakthroughs that man will have as far as what he thought he was capable of doing, we'll look back at this video and be like, man, you know what I mean?
So the internet is acting as an external reminder for man's internal powers and prowess and ability to utilize the mind to create anything, because Oculus Rift is tricking the brain, right? Using the visual cortex, I believe it is. They're saying, just like in the cinema, the brain can differentiate. So if the ostrich sees itself flying,
he's gonna fly.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like Pac said, if you see, then you can't achieve. So if it's presented to you as such, and like you said, they're playing on night and day, so he's taking it into the subconscious realm of nighttime and programming himself.
That's right.
Then in the daytime, you spread your wings.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
And yeah, I mean, it's funny that they would use that, in my own mind, my mind was like, look for, the day that man takes flight.
That's right.
Because man will fly one day, and then all other men will follow.
That's right.
That's
right.
Like me and my brother, we're twins. We didn't walk for the first 13 or 14 months, I think my mother said. Just stubborn. We just wasn't walking. One day my brother got up, he walked, I got up right behind him.
After you seen him walk?
After I seen him walk. You know what I'm saying? And I performed the same task. So there is there's a science to that. There's actually a scientific term.
It's called mirror neurons.
Mirror neurons.
Mirror neurons, right.
You know what I mean?
That's what Kobe did to Jordan.
Oh, did he? God damn it, did.
So, is there any differentiation based on man's ability to learn himself? Is there any differentiation based on the medium? You feel me? So if I'm seeing it on screen, or if I'm seeing it on my big screen or my small screen, the fact that I'm still seeing it,
that's right.
Is it real?
Absolutely. Whatever screen it is, right? It's funny, the word screen, right? It's like when you go in the movie theater, you're looking at a screen in there too, right? The screen is representative of that circular disc out there called the moon, right? It's she's passive in her nature. Right?
Silver screen.
Silver
right.
screen, right?
Right, right.
She's looking for a form of light, right? To allow her to reflect and shine, right?
Right.
So, irregardless of where you see the screen or whatever screen is being used to portray the image, it's all being facilitated in your consciousness the same way. If your eyes are picking up on any imagery, right? Especially the ones that you see over and over and over again, or the ones that you see in a moment that leaves a lasting impression emotionally. It could be something you saw once that was so impactful that,
Look,
you know.
case in point, you know, we had a segment last week about relationships. And normally when I had these segments with Rich, it's always afterwards that the eureka moments come in.
After, yeah,
I'm like, damn, I want to say this. So when we're talking about the nature and the state of relationship, you know, we have to keep in mind that the woman was downloaded with the Princess program. She just had to see that Disney cartoon one time.
That's right.
And it was so emotionally impactful. You know what I'm saying? To see the princess rescued by Prince Charming, that's what they seem to seek. You know what I'm saying? Throughout life, even if they're accepting dumbed down versions of it, you know what I'm saying? Or, you know, they're morphing whatever their shortcomings are from it into whatever it is that they're dealing with now. So I just wanted to interject that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. All it takes is once, man. If it's really, really impactful, it'll stain that hippocampus and be there, man, 10, 15, 20 years. And the interesting part about the whole process is, I was talking to Zinga this morning, and, you know, I was saying how, you know, we're walking around with these copies, right? It's just copies. Like, something could have happened impactful to you 5 or 10 years ago. Let's just say that it was something traumatic, right? Because, you know, so much trauma, people can identify with traumatic experiences. You could be sitting in your living room watching a family program, and somebody on the screen may have said a line similar to something somebody else said to you 5 or 10 years ago that completely shut you down, right? And then all of a sudden you get depressed. You might even start crying, right?
Trigger.
That's right. It's a trigger point, right? But how do we, the solution to the problem, how do we learn how to move beyond the images that appear before the screen of space in our lives, right? Because I'm looking at you now on the screen, Rich, right? I'm looking at blue. This is a screen.
Screen, right.
Right? We are mere projections here.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So how do we solve the problem of the trauma that the images have inflicted on our psychology? Right? So you got something from 20 years ago creeping up in your psychology as a trigger, as Blue mentioned, and then all of a sudden you're back in that space, right? So what does that mean? Because it's not real, Rich.
Right.
They're not where they were at 20 years ago anymore, right? So that means you're holding on to a copy, right? You're holding, it's just like the movie theater. You go in the movie theater and you look at that two-dimensional screen, you know that that's not real, but you start crying if it's something sad happens,
Exactly.
right? You'll laugh at a joke. You might even start to perspire if somebody's getting chased in a full-blown out chasing. You know, you jumping because you scared as, you know, Freddy,
Edge of your
Jason.
seat. Whoa,
Right.
whoa.
You know what I mean? So now it's the same thing in our psychology. We got these issues and we're carrying motion pictures with us. See what I'm saying? So if somebody's, it's like memory works like this. You know, this gentleman, he's walking 2 dogs in the park right now. Right? If I remember, it could be 5 days from now. If I remember that he had that green shirt on, that'll help me trigger the whole memory of the type of dogs he was walking. Just one piece from out of the memory can bring back the whole vivid image.
Association.
That's right.
Nigga, yeah.
So,
law of association.
That's right. So what we have to do is we have to learn how to augment memory. We have to learn how to augment motion pictures. If it made you sad, let's make it make you laugh now. right? If you were abused, right? Let's turn this. Let's get this abuser caught, right? Let's reorganize the motion picture. You see what I'm saying? To create a new reality for us moving forward. You know, so to answer Blue's questions, yes, man, you know, all of these screens of space, the reality that we call 3D now in this park, whether we're watching it on the TV, whether we're watching it in the movie theater, whatever we're watching, it's a potential program to download into our psychology, man.
Blue mentioned a little earlier the Oculus. I want you to elaborate, just me thinking about it personally, and you guys was talking about how the Oculus tricks the brain into thinking that what you're seeing is there. That's sort of similar. The Oculus tricks the brain just like the brain tricks the spirit.
Right.
We come into this spacesuit called the human vessel. We get tricked. I think I'm Richard. You think you Mr. Jew.
Right.
So just like we could get tricked by the Oculus, the brain is tricking us.
Right.
I'm thinking you sitting right there, but you're really not.
Right.
So I guess technology is really just like how this shit is internally.
Right.
Yeah, man. So
right.
I just wanted to say that.
Yeah,
man.
absolutely, man.
That was wow, that's interesting, man. I'm glad y'all brought that up. But in terms of outside stimuli, a lot of people say that, you know, when you hear a sound, the vibrations from outside enter your ear, and then you interpret what it is. Or if you see a vision from the outside, that frequency gets interpreted by your eyes, and you come up with a picture of something like that. But what I'm asking you is, in the dream realm, when my eyes is closed, when I can't hear, I'm still seeing pictures, I'm still hearing things, I'm still going through the same thing I'm going through here in my dream world, but all my senses is shut down. So, is this realm exactly like the dream realm where there is no outside stimuli? It's just an illusion that I'm hearing something or I'm seeing something?
All right, it's a great question. In quantum physics, you got two states. Light acts as a particle, or it acts as a wave. Everything that we see outside of ourselves is the particle. It's solidly real. Like, if I hit my head against this iron pole, it's gonna hurt, right?
It'll hurt in the dream realm too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been times where you can have a dream and you can have a bodily impact, and you wake up and that part of your body feels impacted.
Right.
But I'm using that as an example to show the difference between the dream state and the external reality. Subjectively, and people hate to go subjective, man, because it goes against what people call, scientific methods, right?
Right.
It goes against what you can validate in the external world through some type of measurement, right? And that's just on the surface, because if you really study the phenomenon of subjective thinking, there's been many studies done on brain waves and what happens in your sleep, etc. So, you search for what you want to find out. You know what I mean? Other than that, you're looking for something to disprove it. But anyway, internally, we had the ability to create these worlds. Internally, we see these things take place inside of our dream state or inside of the vision state that you mentioned, Rich. So it's just as real internally as it is externally. And how I prove that is through the practices that I employ. If you have a goal and it hasn't appeared yet in the physical world, obviously because it's a goal, and you can see it internally, right, or subjectively, as we like to call it, and you constantly hold that image over an extended period of time, if that image appears in the physical world from your internal work, then you've just proven the scientific method of subjective reality becoming objective reality. You see? So, but again, it's dedication to the principle. So we see it internally first anyway. That's what makes it real externally.
As somebody walks by playing 444.
Right. You see what I'm saying?
I can relate.
You know. So, you know, and I mentioned this before on Rich's platform. You could scratch your head, you know, and yell till you blue in the face, but there is nothing that man or woman, I'm using man, you know, in a general sense. I don't want the ladies to get offended. So there's nothing that we've created as a collective species that did not first come from out of a subjective state. You can't name one thing. Everything came from a subjective place of thought, right? So, you know, where would we be without the person who thought of a toilet, man? Right? Who had understood the need for that, or, you know, they had to see that.
The mechanics,
you know what I mean? They had to see that internally first, and then once the desire peaked, and they felt it to be real, then all of a sudden, all of the physical world started to conform, and all of the moving parts that needed to get the toilet created came to fruition. Right. You know? So.
I was watching a video, and it was on TED Talk.
Mm-hmm.
Forget that. I want to say the gentleman's name. Let me. Anil Seth was the gentleman's name. And the name of the TED Talk was "Reality is a Controlled Hallucination." And in it, he said, when we agree with our hallucination, say me, you, and Blue, we all agree, hallucinate that a spaceship is going to come, right?
Yeah.
We see a spaceship, nobody else sees it. That's when you call that reality, because we came up with a collective agreement about what reality is. Spaceships and shit.
Right.
Nobody else sees it. They call us crazy.
Right.
They say what happens in this dimension is that we're all hallucinating. Mm-hmm. But when somebody, when I have a hallucination that I'm going to be the first black president, y'all say I'm crazy until it happens.
Right.
Then I'm not crazy no more. Right. Talk to me about reality being a controlled hallucination. Now we're all hallucinating at the end of the day.
Well, it's a very, the choice of words that gentleman used, he used hallucination. That's more of a left hippocampus phenomenon.
Okay.
I like to say we're all imagining.
Okay.
Right? We're all imagining that something is a reality before it happens. And when we do that, you know, especially if we got more than one person, you know, if two or more agree, y'all familiar with all those scriptures, then it becomes that more realistic to happen if more people are engaged in that thought.
Right.
That's right. You know what I mean? So if I hold it to be a reality, if Blue's holding it to be a reality, if... Right?
Yeah, don't mind.
YouTube, yeah.
All right.
Black Magic 363. All right, brother.
If Rich is holding it to be a reality, then the likelihood and the speed of that manifestation will occur in a faster pace, you know. So I don't want to say hallucinating, right?
But what I'm saying, I don't mean to cut you off. If a brother walks up to us right now and says, "Yo, did you see the 3 aliens behind us?"
Right.
And we like, man, get the F out of here.
Right.
Is he really crazy, or he just tapped into a frequency that we didn't tap into?
Is his hippocampus subjective to a reality that we're not partial to?
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
If that's his technology and his mechanism.
Right. Okay.
Can he be piercing the veil and, you know, we just ain't up on game?
Absolutely. If he sees it internally, right? Okay, here we go. We get into the mechanics of it so that I can elucidate better. When the sense of, you got 2 senses of self, one in the right hemisphere, one in the left. When the sense of self in the right hemisphere becomes dominant over the logical centers in the left, it has the ability to project images outside of the body, right? I did a free webinar on this with Prodigy, where he was talking about how one night he was in the bedroom,
Yes.
and he saw
The ship.
a shadow, right, in his room, right, and he really saw it. Now, had I walked in there or Blue,
You wouldn't have seen it.
we wouldn't have saw it, right? It was a projection of his own consciousness, right? Because he's had some, it's a disorientated state of awareness that he's in at that particular time. So, yes, you can create these things, and it usually happens under certain conditions, like in somebody with schizophrenia who sees these things.
Right, yeah.
They got, their hippocampus is smaller. It's shrunk down, or it has damage to it, per se. So it just depends on that person's neurological makeup, you know what I mean? But if he's telling you that he has 3 aliens walking behind him, right? Then damn it, he got 3 aliens walking behind him. And I'm listen, also because people had these experiences and then they end up with physical shit on their body.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah.
Right? They had these moments, in they sleep or whatever, and then people can't find out. Well, he did say he saw a werewolf, and this motherfucker is he's abused here. You see what I'm saying? So how do you write that off? You know what I mean? Just like the dream state that you mentioned. I can be in a dream state and something happened to me physically, and then when I wake up, that part of my body is pulsating like, damn it, my foot got injured. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, go ahead.
Right. I experienced everything that you're talking about, from the ships to the aliens to the waking up, going through things in a dream state and waking up with, physical alterations to my vessel.
That's right.
Like, and I spoke to a young brother the other day that reached out, thanking us for the work that we do, and he said the same thing. He's like, look, when I was younger, there was a shadow being that was in my closet with red eyes.
That's right.
Nobody would listen to me, but I would wake up with full scratches on my body until my mother saw the scratches one day. What the hell is that? Well, you wasn't trying to listen to me.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
There's something up in here.
You thinking I'm tripping. That's right. That's right.
Same first time I seen the craft. I was with other people. I had to make sure that my experience was grounded in their reality as well. And I asked them over and over, because we was high as a kite.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? But I wanted to make sure that I wasn't totally tripping, or this wasn't a figment of my imagination.
Right.
And then I started seeing that craft repeatedly afterwards. And we happened to be at the African American Street Festival, so it was a consortium of people. And I would bring people, because it showed up every day, and I would bring them to the spot, and I would show them, and I would interface with it, and I would tell it to disappear, get big, move left, right. And I'm asking people afterwards, taking a consensus, well, what did you see?
What did you see?
What does that mean? How do you... And people was just tapping out.
That's right.
Bruh.
They had no answers for it.
I'm going to smoke.
That's right.
I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
I saw it, but I can't make nothing of it. So they chose to disengage and remove that experience from their mind. Some of them never spoke to me again.
Yeah.
Real talk. Like,
it was a scene. And look, it was a scene. I don't know if y'all remember the movie The Sorcerer's Apprentice with Nicolas Cage.
That was my joy.
And it was a scene where they had just released Morgana, I think this was her name, when she was doing the pentagram thing in the park or something. And the little squeeze that dude had with him, the apprentice, they was riding because they was trying to get to to stop Morgana, and he would look out the window and he could see the pentagram. Then they would show her vantage point and she would not see nothing.
See it, right.
And they kept showing you that. I can see it, you can't see it. I can see it, you can't see it. So in essence, what that motion picture, out of the subconscious creators, out of the subconscious mind of that film creator, trying to bring a bigger discussion to the table is, you have to be tuned into the frequency. That's
right.
That's really it, And frequency simply means how often you frequent something. How often do you repeat it? How often do you go there? How often do you practice it? So now a bunch of people who are not practicing any subjective techniques at all, and they're only, they're dealing with, can I see it, touch it, feel it? When you start to go into to that space, of course they're not going to have the experience. You know what I mean? And so that's why, man, they tell you a mystic's path is you don't walk with a whole bunch of folks, man, because it ain't. And you realize if you smart, you'll realize that I'll save this for the people who will understand, because they've had similar experiences.
So,
right.
Can I ask you what your thoughts are on psilocybins and hallucinogens, and why, like, let's take DMT for example. Why does everyone seem to have the same experience? I see these entities and they look like this. You know what I'm saying? I see these figures, this geometry, and this geometry looks like this, so multi-dimensional in its structure. The best artists can't capture that rendering.
Right.
But people are seeing this with their mind unilaterally. Not too many people say they have too much of these different experiences. So is the hallucinogens, you know, the psilocybins, is it a way for people to remove whatever veil has been created, you know, to accept this contract as reality?
That's a great question, Blue. They have something called apparitions, right?
Yes.
And it was a famous one with Mother Mary. I forget the country.
I remember.
But what happened was, one person went and saw the apparition and immediately identified the image as Mary, right? Everybody else that came behind that person saw Mary too.
Right.
Right. So now, what happens is in these experiences that people have, the first person to make contact with the other side of the veil, whatever their perception is around what they have witnessed, now becomes the scale for everybody else to follow the same pattern. The program, right? So, you know, people going on these DMT trips and they're seeing the same geometry, the same. That's because the you know, and this is going way back to ancient days, because, you know, that ain't nothing new. You know, ancient folks been using these things for eons of time, right? When they step into that particular dimension of thought, right, this is what they brought back with them, right? It's sort of like, you know, it's like spiritual genetics, right? Like, you know, you look like your daddy, and then your son look like you and your daddy, right? And then you just keep passing down the gene, right? It's the same thing on the spiritual side. We tend to see similar things, right? Because the people that came before us saw it that way. You know what I mean? So that's why they seeing it the same way, you know?
Okay. That's dope. Is there any way for somebody to hack their experience, if that's the case?
To see something other than that?
Yes. To break free of the programs within programs, you know, that have the template has already been set. You know what I'm saying?
That has a lot to do with the culture in which a person comes up in. You know, when a person has like a near-death experience, prime example, y'all in the New Age world may be familiar with a lady named Doreen Virtue, right? She's made all of these spirit books, right? You know, tarot decks.
Cards, right.
She, you know, she's famous, and then as of late, she's back on her Jesus thing.
Flipped,
right?
Flipped on them.
Right? And she's like
hard body.
She's like, no, I'm with Jesus Christ, right? So, and the reason I'm bringing this up is to answer Blue's question in regards to how can a person how can they hack the system? I say that it's based upon the cultural dynamic that you're in, because whatever you've been conditioned to believe in the culture or the society that you're in tends to be the experience that you have when you have something extrasensory happen to you, right? So now Doreen, in the video, she says she had an authentic vision of Jesus Christ. But she'll tell you she was brought up in Christianity at the earlier stages of her life.
Right. She went through that phase early.
So her foundation to her spiritual path was still based upon Christianity. So now you got a hardwired program, right? That you went with your mama, you went with your daddy, you went with your aunts and your uncles to church. You've built a social bond, right? Which has made the connections in the brain even stronger to the concept that you're engaging. Because I see my mama doing it. I see my daddy doing it. So then she becomes a little bit more aware down her path of enlightenment. And then she gets into all of the other crafts. But then the moment that she has a subjective experience, it takes her right back to her root. Right?
Whip. Right.
You see what I'm saying? So now we're right back at the cultural dynamic of how we're brought up in whatever system we're brought up in. So if you shifted and you moved to another part of the world and you embrace that culture wholeheartedly, right? Then you go take the DMT, you'll have a different experience from it. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You have a different outlook based upon the principles that have been laid down to you of what the other side of physicality is supposed to represent. You know what I mean? So I think, and also to hack it, is to program it before you go over there. Become the conscious creator of the experience that you're seeking to have. So if you know you're going in a session with some DMT or some ayahuasca, right? And you about to go into one of those sessions, how have you prepared your subconscious mind 3 days prior, leading up to that experience, right? What type of questions have you asked yourself in order to pull back from an experience like that, right? Because when you go in, right, you've just like anybody else who programs, computers or anything else, they have their own guidelines of what type of system that they want to implement on the software, right?
Right.
Once you do that consciously, right, and you program that particular part of your being, you'll go in there in that moment and come out with a total different experience based upon a preconceived idea that you planted intentionally to have. So a lot of times it's like, how when people get readings, tarot readings or astrological readings, they'll say, just give me a general, right? Just give me a general. Nobody wants to be specific, right? So what happens is people who go in onto these trips, they're not there to seek out a specific thing. They just like, all right, I'm here for the experience.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So if you go in there and you program yourself to have questions answered, then when you go on that other side, 9 out of 10, you're not going to experience what the group experienced. You'll have an altered situation come out of that moment.
Excellent.
Indeed, man. I'm about to wrap it up, Minister Jew.
All right.
I want to thank you, man. The interview was actually supposed to be shorter, man, but we had such a good time building. We went over an hour, man, but it's an absolutely great interview. Just for those listening, I should have said this in the beginning. I'll probably put this in the beginning. Brother Panic is coming to New York November 19th. He will be in New York at the Black Lady Theater in Brooklyn. I will finally bring Brother Panic to Brooklyn, New York. So if you want that real spiritual information, Brother Panic will be in New York. Details will be coming out soon, along with live stream information and ticket information and all that other good stuff. Leave your contact info, Juice, so they can get at you.
All right, man. You can find me at theImaginationguru.com. That's theImaginationguru.com. I keep it real simple on my site. Got a couple memberships, Quantum Imaging, Quantum Scriptures. We got a couple ebooks available, Imagination at Work and I Am Prosperity is available over on the site. And I give a consultation called the Positron Pass, where we deal with some of the images that me and Blue spoke on today and the trauma, showing people how to rewrite and reclassify memory so that they can have a new experience moving forward in life. So that's the website. You can call me at 877-345-3797. If you want to call me to talk about some of the things that I offer, the line is open. I think it's from 10 to 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. What else, man? We got catch us on Twitter too, Hip Hop Astrology TV. My man Ampu going in over there on the astrodynamics of some of the stuff we see happen to rappers and people in the entertainment world, breaking down some of their charts and Hip Hop Astrology TV on YouTube as well.
Dope.
Is where you can catch us at to get some of that data. Outside of that, man, that's pretty much it.
Need to give you your contact info, Blue.
I just had one piece that I wanted to interject. I walked away in correlation to what the brother was talking about with the memory, you know what I'm saying, and the copy, you know, and we were speaking about the correlation with the computer in our mind. Think about especially Windows, right? You will have that ghost copy of the file. It will have copied and it will have the squirrel on it. And you click on it, yeah, and it's never really there. You know what I'm saying? You got to delete the file, or, you know, you might run the risk of, you know what I'm saying, damaging, you know what I'm saying, whatever the complete file was.
Right.
So they got that ghost copy, and it's the same thing he's saying as that memory. It's not real.
And
you know what I'm saying?
Another great example of technology emulating. Rick.
And
I'm glad
lastly,
you brought that up.
I know you want to wrap this up. I just Blue triggered something else. It's real simple. I like to give people analogies to make this science simple. You go to the courts. You need a birth certificate, death certificate, marriage license, whatever. Right? They don't give you the originals. They give you a certified copy. Right? But you can take that certified copy, ladies and gentlemen, and do official business anywhere. It's the same thing with memory. Although you're no longer in that time and space where it happened, you're carrying a copy that works just as good as the original.
I like that analogy.
It's that simple. So you got to learn how to augment the original. Therefore, all the copies that you carry around with you in the future have a completely different orientation to it, you know? So, you know, you need to copy and paste.
That's dope. History was made here in a small park in Brooklyn. Minister Jew in Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? I had to see it to believe it. You know, now it's part of my consciousness. All right? Blue Pillar 44, Instagram, Gmail as well. Peace, love, and light.
Peace, family. This brother Rich from UGR, urging all my viewers and subscribers to help support the channel by donating just $1 to the UGR PayPal account. We appreciate the viewership and support, and we understand the power of $1. If you benefit in any way, shape, or form, we ask that you donate $1, whether it be monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, or yearly, so that we can build our brand to compete with the NBCs, the MTVs, and the Foxes of the world. I figure since Kanye could ask Mark Zuckerberg for $1 billion, I could ask my subscribers to donate $1 so I could make the best possible content possible. The main objective of this channel is to inspire you to become the greatest version of yourself. So hopefully throughout the years of you watching this program, you have been inspired to become the greatest version of yourself. If you would like to donate, you could go to www.paypal.com and send a donation to richandmerit7@yahoo.com. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your program.